Hey guys, welcome back to THM, and in front of me is an older Honda generator that refuses to start. If you guys have been on this channel before, you know that I refuse to let anything die. So let's get to diagnosing and see if we can get this up and running again. Okay, so while I do my preliminary checks, I should probably let you guys know that this is a Honda EM3000. It's probably a mid-90s style generator. So I just want to make sure we got some gas, and we got plenty of gas. Doesn't smell funky. We're gonna start with checking the oil. And we don't have very much oil on that dipstick. Okay, so what I was saying too is the backstory on this is a friend of mine dropped it off, but he was using it in the cold of winter. He had left one of his pieces of equipment out on site, and he needed to have something to plug in so that the glow plugs and the battery heater that he had on there and block heater would work. So he used his generator. When he got back a couple hours later, the generator wasn't running, and there was a puddle of oil underneath it. And I can definitely tell you that it's leaking something in somewhere, because every so often, well, actually right there, I got some oil at the bottom of the crankcase. I don't see any cracks or anything. I don't see anything super obvious as to what it could be for the oil leak. But let's just keep checking here to make sure. We should probably add a little bit of oil to this. I'm going to use good used oil. I just did an oil change on my CLA, so it's known good oil. It wasn't, let's say, like the engine didn't blow up or anything, so it's not full of metal. But I just want to make sure I have enough oil so that the sensor, if you're familiar with Honda engines, I mentioned it before on my channel, is a lot of Honda engines and other engines as well have a low oil protection. So let's just add some oil and make sure that that sensor is active. And I'm going to try and not do it in normal fashion, which is to make a mess everywhere. But I make no promises, because it's just the way it happens here. Yep, and I'm dripping all over the floor already. Okay, next thing I'd like to check is just to see what the air filter looks like, because sometimes that can be an indication of trouble that may have caused or come across. And in this case, the air filter looks pretty darn clean. So yeah, that's really good. No sign of, let's say, any type of ingestion. So it's not oily, it's not gassy. Sometimes if you have an engine issue, you'll have oil spit back into the filter, but that's not the case here. And how does this feel here? Oh, that doesn't feel very good. I mean, look at this. There's barely any compression on this. Granted, some of these have a decompressor, and I think this one does. I'd have to check the book, but just for fun, let's just check the compression. Okay, so if memory serves, and again, don't quote me on this, but most engines that have a decompressor, if you're within, I think it's 35 to 40 psi, you're usually pretty good to, you're good enough to say that the engine is in healthy condition and the valves and all that stuff are sealing. Doing your job. So let's give this a couple of pulls and see where we're at. Not sure if you guys will be able to see this, but I'll show you the gauge after. Okay. Well, we're sitting at about 40 pounds. So it should be okay. It feels a little bit lower though. I don't know. Since I got the spark plug out, I guess I may as well do a spark plug check. Saying, you know, checking for spark. The plug itself doesn't look too bad. Looks fairly recent. Okay, so I'm going to try and hold this maybe up here. And give this a pull at the same time without electrocuting myself. Oh, I better put this at on. Oh, it is at on. Okay, do you guys see a spark? Because I don't see a spark. I don't see a spark. Well, that's not good. So let's take the spark plug tester, or spark tester, see if I get better luck here. Maybe not, because my tester is starting to look pretty sad. That should be a good ground. I like to have a darker background to see the flame. The blue spark, I should say. Lack of words to say. That should be, yeah, I should be able to see that. Oh, no way. Well, maybe that's why it won't start. Because we got no sparkage. Okay, unless I just got a bad ground. Which could be, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Let's, just for fun, let's put this back in and see if I can figure it out here. See if it'll start. Okay, so fuel is on, I think. I can't tell. You know what? Maybe that's what I should do. Is I should just take a second and get a quick sample of what the gas looks like and go from there. Maybe I should use a cleaner container. Yeah, that's much cleaner now. Should be able to get a sample and be able to determine whether it's got water and whether or not the valve is on. So we got fuel dripping and will it stop? Maybe I'm just draining the bowl. Okay. So I guess it's safe to say, is that on? What if I turn this off? Okay, so it's that on. It was on. I should mark that. And what does the gas look like? Well, I don't see water in the bottom. Yeah, I mean, it's dirty because I didn't super clean the bowl, but I think it's passable. Okay, we know that's on. We know the valve or the switch is on here. Got a choke. Let's just give it a couple of pulls just for fun and see what happens. I'm gonna do this though, so that you guys can kind of see the oil lamps and stuff like that in the event it does decide to fire. But yeah, see, I'm not getting anything. What? What? Really? Really? Is it possible that it was just low on oil and it actually saved itself? You gotta be kidding. Really? I mean, other than that leaks oil, I mean, clearly leaks oil. Look at that. It's already got some drops and it ran for like 10 seconds. So we're gonna have to determine where that's coming from. Oh, I think I already know where it's coming from. Which I mean, isn't going to be super fun, but these engines are bolted to the generator, and I think there's a seal in between making sure the oil stays in the crankcase and doesn't make its way into the generator. And I think that seal's blown, because that's exactly where it's leaking from. Okay. But did I just get lucky? Maybe a bad connection. How come I wasn't getting spark? Is it possible I just wasn't getting a good ground? Or my tester isn't good anymore? Like, I know my little clip isn't very strong, but even the spark plug wasn't sparking. I'm confused. So just for the sake of argument, let's try it one more time, see if it starts. Okay, so that starts like it's supposed to. That's the typical Honda starting procedure. One pull and you're good. Let's pull the oil back out of this and put it back to approximately where it was and see, in fact, if that sensor did its job, because I'm curious. That's the great thing about these oil suckers, is they usually don't make a mess, unless you're me and you have a hard time doing anything with oil, because I always make a mess. So it's going to be hard to do it to the point where it was exactly, because I didn't measure, but it was at the tip of the dipstick. So I'm going to see if I can kind of precisely bring it back to that level. But I make no guarantees. And maybe this won't work. Maybe it just got lucky. Maybe there was a connection or something like that on a spark plug, and that's all it was. But I'm super curious. Actually, it was right about here. Maybe a little less. I don't know. We're gonna just see, because it's right at the tip of the dipstick. I'm just curious now. Will it in fact still fire, or will it just not start? So everything is ready to go here. So that's clearly still enough oil, as long as it's on the dipstick apparently. So let's bring it a little bit lower. Okay, so we're at the point where there's nothing on the dipstick, and I'm really curious to see if it will still go. Because at this point, in my opinion, it shouldn't. Or is it possible that we just had a faulty sensor? So normally the sensor is right in the crankcase, and it's usually a yellow wire, yeah, right here. And it's connected. Everything should be the way it is. Okay, let's try that again. And no, actually, we're not. So if we pay attention to the oil alert, almost started, but it saved itself because the oil alert is going red. You guys hear that? It wants to start. So there you go. As soon as it drops just below the dipstick level, it won't start. So I'm wondering if maybe that's exactly what happened, but it was above that dipstick. Like it had a little bit above. It might have been just on the brink where, depending if it was sitting on, let's say a little bit this way, so that the oil would have been sloshing to the back of the engine or that side. I don't know. But there you go, guys. That is what happens, and that's how an oil alert works. I mean, clearly it saves an engine. This engine seems to be running just fine now. Now that we know the oil alert works and how it works, pretty interesting, we still need to figure out the leak. And now that we've had it running a couple of times, if I tip it over on its side, which I don't really necessarily like doing, but I need to, we can kind of examine, and I can definitely see now that we've got oil coming right from here in between this, because these are two halves. We got your generator half and this is the crankcase half. So if something is leaking between here, there's a seal on the crankshaft that connects the generator to the engine. So I'm assuming it's going to be that seal. So we're going to take it down right to that seal and hope that that's exactly what it is. But that's going to be enough learning for today, guys. I'm going to end the video here, and in a future video I'm going to tear it down, I'm going to replace the seal, and there might be other, while you're in there kind of parts, not quite sure until we get there. However, I'd like to do this in two separate parts because I think the video is probably long enough as it is. So I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will see you all in the next video where this is hopefully running way nicer with no oil leaks. See you then.